Pikachu, I choose you.
Greetings, the Astro 30 here yet again, and welcome back to AEL. Now, if you are new to this channel, welcome. Please consider going down below and subscribing if you haven't done so already. Cheers. Anyway, sitting on the desk over here, I've got a Pioneer TX-520 stereo receiver, stereo tuner. And according to the service manual, which I did manage to find for this is around 1981. So it reeks of 80s. It would have been probably a lot nicer if this came in a wooden cabinet like a lot of this silver fronted aluminium stuff used to back in the day, but yeah, well, it is what it is. And I paid $22 for it at the Glenorchy tip shop the other day, and it does say that it has been tested by a competent person. 14-day warranty from the 20th of the 12th. Yes. Well, the good thing is they haven't cut the cord off. Well, why would they if it's been tested? So I'm assuming this has been plugged directly into the wall, so there should be no issue. So yeah, that'd be probably the next thing I'm going to do shortly. So yeah, I will be plugging it directly in. I'm not going to worry too much about a dim bulb. However, I have noticed that there's this circular pattern on the top of the lid here where something's been sitting on a permanent basis, and you can actually just see it here in the shot. Something round was sitting on top of it, which is covering the vent holes, which is what you do. So I have no idea if this thing works or if it even turns on, but they did say it has been tested and they would have cut the cord off if it didn't work. It has RCA outputs and they're permanently wired to the unit, so there's no RCA sockets on the back. It's both AM and FM, and yeah, well, there's not much more to talk about this, except I wasn't really going to make a video on this, but I thought, well, what the hell. You know, we'll have a look at some, you know, retro 80s stuff, nostalgia, a walk down memory lane, although I've never actually seen this particular unit ever before in my life, but yeah. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to plug it in and see if it actually works. So I'll grab the power plug and I'll plug it into my power board and turn the power on. Also, according to the service manual, this power switch switches to secondary only. So when this is turned off or in standby, the mains transformer in there all the time is always energized. So yeah, if you're not going to use it for a long period of time, unplug it. So let's turn it on. Ooh, well, it's good to see that all dial lights work. And well, I've got full tuning strength on there, so it's already tuned to a station. It's actually currently set to the AM band. Now, it has a rod antenna on the inside, so there's no antenna connected externally. But because it's already got a ferrite rod antenna inside, it's going to pick up AM quite fine. Don't know about FM without an antenna connected, but I've got full 5-bar strength of tuning on the AM band, and I'm around about, I think I'm at 1080 kilohertz, which over here is the TAB racing channel. Yes, where you get to hear the GTs, the racehorses. Now this tuning knob is very, very positive. There is actually a flywheel on the inside of this to make the operation of turning this knob a lot smoother, and that's the one reason why they do that. Plus, it's got a manual tuning capacitor in there with a dial cord wrapped around all this dial and everything, and it's also to overcome any resistance you may get when rocking back and forth on the tuning capacitor. Because of all the angles that the dial cord's got to go at, it can tend to bind when you want to, you know, back it off a little bit, and yeah, that flywheel just makes it a little bit more precise, is what I'm trying to say. So let's turn it to FM. Nothing. Just turn the dial. Well, it says it's tuned and I'm getting a stereo light, so it's receiving something. However, the tuning meter is pretty weak. In fact, it's not even displaying any single LED at all. Oh, one. It does need an antenna on the FM by the looks of things. It's not receiving much up that end. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, that's a little bit better. But if I touch the antenna sockets at the back here, there we go, we've got full tune, full bars there. So yeah, it will need a antenna. So to avoid getting copyright strikes on the channel for playing music, I'm going to hook this up to an amplifier and we'll have a listen to what its output's like. Right, well, I'm hooked up to an amplifier.
Has a clear day and 23 degrees. When on the roads this week, watch your speed and follow drivers and celebrate the festive season safely.
Okay, whatever you say. That's the racing channel.
Lucky us.
Workshops to inform the design of the new Northern Heart Centre to be built at the Launceston General
That's 936 ABC.
The government's fully funding the 120 million.
Now he therefore should be worried about
That's
spike in coffee prices.
that's the Radio National.
Matters like this on live TV. But
I'm not sure what that is.
We'd encourage the government to
Print radio, I think.
The old wizened sports editor at Australian Associated.
And that's the lowest on the band there that I can get. We only have 5 AM stations in this state. And without an antenna connected, I'm not going to pick up anything from interstate. And the conditions are kind of wrong at the moment for that. It's better at night with a nice long antenna. And there's bugger all up that end of the band. So yes, that is working. Try FM. That's just got FM muting or mono.
而目前有些包装并不值得回收，这就是
Some Chinese thing. And that's pretty much it for the FM band. So we can hear that it is actually working on both bands just fine. So there's nothing electrically wrong with it. However, we are going to open it up and inspect it. I mean, why just make a video on a working unit and, you know, not see what's on the inside. Alright, time for the big reveal. All the screws have been removed. Very flimsy piece of metal here. And there we are in like Flynn, and there's not much in here. It's single circuit board design covered in dust, as it usually would be, and wooden panels for the front and the bottom. This one's a bit bowed actually. But over here is our air core tuning capacitor, and there's that big flywheel I was talking about. So you can see it gives a very positive response. There's a bit of crap in the core of the capacitor too. This will need to be dusted out and cleaned. And here's the AM rod antenna, so that's the reason why it works without anything connected to the sockets on the back here. According to the service manual, there is supposed to be an extra RCA socket on the back here for stereo AM out, but it's only a single plug. Not sure how that's supposed to work. Maybe it just separates the channels a little bit differently on that particular output, but anyway, very old capacitors. See, the tops of these look weird. Actually, I think they might be covered in plastic, some sort of like plastic wrap or something, like, you know, because these two over here don't, but this one does. There's some form of like blue plastic stuff on it. That's a 22 microfarad at 16 volt. So over here is the oscillator coil for the AM, and this one looks like an IF transformer. On the other side of the tuning condenser there is another IF transformer. One side would be for AM and one would be for FM, and judging by this large inductor thing here, this looks like the FM side. And here's all the trimming capacitors for the main tuning condenser here. And there's another extra capacitor here, which I'm not sure what its job is, but there's no trimmer for it. So that may have been an afterthought. Is there actually any fingers for it to go into? Yes, there are plates on the fixed plates on the capacitor that it goes into, so fair enough. Anyway, I'm going to pull the bottom off. I'm going to just inspect the solder joints on the other side of the main PCB. This I don't like. This is the main power transformer, and it is turned off, otherwise I'm going to be sticking my fingers across it. And it's unplugged as well. It's just soldered to two tags for the line cord coming in. There is no inline fuse protection at all, which is bad, and it's not insulated. So that I don't like, and I also don't like that the clamp for the cable goes into the metalwork here. I was going to say it's connected to this wooden panel as well, but it's not. It's actually a hole in there that it passes through. So you can actually get the back off without having to undo the clamp, which is nice. So immediately I can see there's a screw missing. So someone's been in here before. Wouldn't surprise me, considering this is from the 80s. It's probably been serviced a few times in its life. Good old masonite paneling. I would have preferred actually this to be completely metal on the bottom. It would have made it a bit nicer, but it's not, so we'll just go with it. There's not very many screws holding this on. The feet themselves are only just like pushed on with clips into the wood. So the other problem with wood is you can easily overdo these screws and go right through it. It's only thin masonite, it's like 3mm thick. So that's the last screw. Yeah, well, doesn't look too bad in here. Most of these joints don't look terrible. Maybe a few questionable ones. That one right there is pretty bad. The one next to it is not that great either. It'd be the same component. Don't know what that is. Hard to tell. Feels like a small capacitor or something. What are you? Yeah, a small capacitor. But yeah, that's got a hole in it. That's not joined correctly. So it might be a good idea for me to touch up some solder joints here. That one's cracked as well. I think that's part of the tuning capacitor ground or something. Looks like it's on that. It's going to take quite a bit of heat because it has the tuning condenser. That one's now soldered. That one's reflowed. That one's reflowed. That's a bit better. Okay, and a short time later, I've cleaned it up as best as I can, brushed it out, dusted it, soldered up the suspect joints underneath. There was a few of them. I really should address this transformer, but then even if I do, because that's bent over there at right angles, even putting heat shrink on that's going to be impossible, because that's actually how it's flat connected to a pin here, or the wire coming out the primary of the transformer, and that's molded to the case, so you couldn't really bend it back anyway to get heat shrink on it. But yeah, just be mindful of things like that when you've got the top off of units like that, all this exposed mains. So now I should probably plug it back in, being mindful of that transformer, and make sure that the thing still works and still tunes. I can tell from the front panel. But it does need a bit of a clean up, so I will find my plug and I will plug it back in right there. And we'll do our first preliminary smoke test. Nothing happened. So I'll just make sure that we're still tuning. Yeah, we're still tuning. Tuning lights there are lit up. It's on a station. Although I'm not getting a tuned light on AM, maybe that's only for FM. Anyhow, that looks like it's still working. Now this could benefit from a recap, like replacing all these electrolytic capacitors, because well, they would be from when the unit was brand new and never been changed. None of them are bulging or anything at the moment, so these are old Elner brand capacitors too. So yeah, it could benefit from recapping, which I'm not going to do right now, but I may revisit this later and completely recap it. But I'd have to like take an inventory of what's in here. We've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 23 electrolytic capacitors by the looks of things to change. I would change all of them, including the filter cap, which looks like that's the main filter here, and I'm not 100% sure what that is. It's only a 470 microfarad at 25 volt, that can't be the main filter. These must be the main filters, but I can't see what the value is. No, they're only 470 as well. Really? Okay, so they don't have any large electrolytics in here for filtering and smoothing the secondary of the transformer here, which is interesting. Although I think that's a regulator I see here. And it says D886 or D880 or something like that. D880, that's a transistor, so it looks like they might be using that as a regulator because there's a diode over here. But what's interesting is there's only 2 silicon diodes here as the rectifier, so that's a 4-wave rectifier, I assume, unless it's a half-wave rectifier. I'd have to look at the service manual, but there's only 2 wires from the secondary coming in. For a 4-wave rectifier you need a center tap transformer for a ground, but there isn't one. And there's only a blue and a brown wire coming in, nothing else. So there's only 2 diodes. There's no, it's not a bridge rectifier, 4-wave bridge rectifier. It's just looks like either a half wave or a 4-wave. Interesting. So anyway, what I'd need to do now is I'd need to clean up the lid and put it all back together, and probably end this one out. There's not much more I could do in here. I mean, I could clean the switches, but they seem to be operating fine. Yeah, so I'm probably going to leave it alone at the moment. Well, that answers that. That's the look at the schematic diagram inside the service manual for this unit. And it's half-wave rectified, because here's the power switch down here, comes off the secondary of the transformer. That's one side of the AC, and that's the other side of the AC, which is the ground point. They're going through D1, which is a half-wave rectifier. There's also D2, which is the second one, which is going from there to ground. So that would actually be effectively chopping off the negative going cycle of the waveform here. The ground point, or the entry point from the transformer, actually goes to this capacitor here before it goes to ground. So this doesn't actually connect to ground. So it's getting its ground ref through this 470 microfarad 16 volt capacitor to ground. So you're not effectively shorting the transformer out on the secondary when this diode conducts in the reverse direction from the negative waveform of the, well, negative cycle of the waveform. So it's not directly shorting the transformer out, so that's what the capacitor's for. But the only filtration here is this 470 mic, this 470 mic, and this 470 mic. That's it. So capacitors in series will divide, so that's only, what's that? That's 235 between these two and ground, so that's 235 microfarad. But technically we're seeing 470 microfarad from this diode's perspective and the other side of the transformer, because it's not actually to ground, so it doesn't have both capacitors across it. Then we've got the 470 microfarad 25 volt in parallel with this conjunction here, so that would add effectively together. So we'd have, well, yeah, 235 microfarad from this capacitor's point of view, and 470 is 705 microfarad roughly. And yes, that transistor Q10 over here is being used as a regulator, which is giving us 12.4 volt apparently. Yeah, because there's the Zener diode, so it's a series pass element. Yeah, and that's basically answers that question. So it's half-wave rectified, and they're doing this with the transformers secondary, so yeah. So effectively they're only looking at the positive going waveform coming into this diode and clamping off the negative going waveform, which would actually be going back through this capacitor, back through the transformer anyway. And there we have it there, all back together, cleaned up and smelling as fresh as a clean toilet. I used some more of that Strike red stuff and it's yeah, it smells. Yeah, so that's basically all I'm going to do to it. I'm going to put it away and bring it out another day. Might integrate it with my stereo equipment and use it for a while, with or without an antenna. I don't really think it's necessary to have an antenna at the moment, but it'd benefit for having one. Anyhow, this is probably going to be the last video before Christmas Day, because I've got other things to do this week, and I'm going to take a break for about a week from making videos. You know, just rest my mind and not worry about doing other things. So, but if you enjoyed this video, please remember to go down below, rate, comment and subscribe if you haven't done so already, and I will catch you in the next one. Anyway, guys and gals, thank you very much for subscribing throughout the year and watching my content. It means a lot to me, and all those new people, consider subscribing. It helps me out. Anyway, I'll see you guys and gals in the next video. Thanks for watching. See ya. Have a great day.